Hey, family! We all have a story to tell. We all want to find our light. So, let's come together. Join me as I share mine of stardom to tragedy, motherhood, rebuilding my life and love. With hope and joy as we go back to connecting with each other on my new show. Catch Season 2 of After Dark with Kayise. This episode of After Dark with Kayise is an intimate and deeply moving conversation with actress, author, and influencer Tshiamo Modisane. Through the lens of her memoir, Am Tshiamo, My Transition to Self-Acceptance and Womanhood, Tshiamo reflects on the complexities of identity.
I am a heterosexual woman who's had a trans experience.
The defining moments that led to her gender affirmation journey and her pursuit of living her truth.
My mother and my grandmother's passing, as much as it was my biggest fear, it also was my biggest blessing because it allowed me the chance to live and dig deep inside of me and live for me.
This episode weaves between Tshiamo's past hurts and present truths, her struggles and triumphs.
What if I do this and I actually become the best version of myself, right?
And the ongoing evolution of self-identity. Incredibly excited and nervous, to be quite honest. This is a conversation that I think is going to educate me and a lot of our viewers about the journey to self-acceptance and the journey to womanhood, when you feel that it was not what, was biologically assigned or what you think, is the life that you should live. It's really about finding out what is it that one needs to go through in order to really live authentically and be vulnerable in that journey. And I think our guest today is really just the perfect example of that. So I'm excited but very nervous. I hope that I do justice for her and for the community, the transgender community, but most importantly for humanity.
So how am I feeling? Well, just done my makeup. I'm ready for the interview to change for wardrobe, and I'm feeling quite above the excitement and the anticipation, right? I'm feeling a very strong, deep sense of just gratitude, of honor, and humility. I have looked up and looked forward to this chat with Kayise. I love her personally, love what she stands for, love what she's done with the show and the ethos and everything she's done, and can't wait to have this chat.
Welcome to After Dark, beautiful.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
Finally.
Right?
Yeah.
Thank you.
It feels like a deja vu moment for me, though. Because I think 7 years ago, or 6, when did I win the OPW presentation? 2017. So it's about,
it's a good 7 years.
7 years. And then you were interviewing me. And this new hopeful who had just come out. Yeah. And life has just turned around for both of us since then, right?
Yeah.
Before I start our conversation, though, I want us to talk about the beauty of this. I Am Tshiamo, My Transition to Self-Acceptance and Womanhood. I must commend you, congratulate you. This book is stunning. You look stunning. It is a brave act of self-love, acceptance, like you say in the title. And I think also just the femininity in it tells us exactly what is going to be in these pages. Tell us about this. How did we get here? How did we get to this moment where you tell the rest of us what this journey has been about?
This hasn't, like, it's been a lifelong journey. It really has been a lifelong journey. What propelled everything was the passing of my mom in 2017, and the conversation that was had between us. And fast forward to 2021, and another experience, ordeal happened that led me one day waking up to, I would like to believe, the voice of God telling me, it's time to write the book. And at first I was scared, I was nervous. I had, because you're starting something on your own,
And you're always scared what the world is going to say about this. Yeah.
Exactly. It was just always that. However, there was that cushion of knowing that I had been told more than once, like, everything I'm doing, like, I'm unfolding in a very graceful way, and people want to know, people want to ask questions, people want to, and I think I was at a time where I could share, where I was ready to share, where it made sense to open up. I had gone through what I'd like to believe the worst, and was now ready to embrace the new becoming and, step into the light.
Into the light, into after the dark. Yeah, man. And I love that you've said that it's about coming out and telling people that there's a journey behind this. And it was the timing. I always believe in timing and space. And I think even worldwide, you are so on point.
Thank you.
A lot of people are seeking that form of self-love, that form of self-acceptance, where it doesn't matter really what the rest of the world, we're really just 100%. Saying we don't care. We just want to live authentically with ourselves. So here at After Dark, we have the light box.
Okay.
This is where all the light moments live.
Okay.
Right? So what's going to happen is that I'm actually going to allow you, because you're my guest.
Okay.
I'm going to allow you to open this box and pick a question. Read it out loud to yourself, answer it, and when you're done, I'm going to answer the exact same question for you to hear.
Okay.
So go ahead. This is the light box, girl. All the light moments live in
here. When did you first feel truly seen for who you are? Ooh. When? I think in writing the book, I think the day I submitted my proposal and I was told, yes, this, I think that's when. But more than this, I would say the day I had a conversation with my younger brother, and he turned around and just embraced me and just said, I'm so glad. Like, I'm so glad that you have finally found you.
Found you. Oh, that's beautiful. Yeah. That's beautiful. And I know your brother means a lot to you. And that's the conversation we're going to have throughout this conversation as well. But I know how also just showing up for your brother in the different phases of your life has defined that relationship. For me, I think I've never not felt seen. And I think that it's a privilege to be able to show up authentically. But it doesn't mean I didn't have moments where I wanted to shy away from the world because of what I was going through. But in terms of Kayise, I've always been sure I wanted to be this, girl on TV. I was always bubbly. I was always larger than life. But like life happened, and I think it did take away my voice. You know? And it wasn't necessarily that I was insane, but it was also just a question of trying to navigate how do I come back to that Kayise? So yeah, I think I love how also my entry into this industry was also just being seen, being chosen, for what I'd always believed, but also just being able to share my story of personal tragedy, my motherhood, all these things that I'm living in right now, being seen and being accepted for it. I think for me, that's how it works.
No, 100%.
Okay, I'm gonna pick the next one. Can put this, you can put that back.
Okay.
Put that back. What is the one thing you once believed about yourself that you now know isn't true?
Is not true, or is true?
What's the one thing you once believed about yourself that you now know isn't true?
Isn't true. That I could never be great. That I could never be me.
Ooh.
Yeah, that's it.
That's it? Okay, for me, that vulnerability is weakness.
Ooh, I struggle with that.
We all do.
I struggle. I struggle with that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you've gone and told us, so I don't think you actually are defeated by that struggle. You've overcome it. I just want to let you know that by writing this, you are much stronger than you actually think.
Thank you.
Okay, cool. You grab the next one.
Next one. If you could go back and comfort your younger self, what would you say? I already said in the first page of my book, you matter, you're beautiful, and it's all working out for your good. It's all working out for your good.
Absolutely. I don't even want to change that, Tshiamo, because I truly believe it as well. And it's not always that we believe that.
Yeah.
But so it's a journey, right? But also that we really are enough, with our imperfections. And as we continue to self-actualize, and get to that point.
Yeah.
So we share that one.
Okay.
Cool.
Happiness.
Ooh, I love this one. What does living in your truth feel like in a single word?
What does living in the truth feel like in
a single word?
In
just
a single
one
word. Amazing. Graceful.
Yeah.
You've given me two. It's
I'm
hard.
gonna just qualify it. That's 2 words.
I think. I'm graceful.
Graceful. And you absolutely are. I think everybody in the studio can actually feel it. It feels that way.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. For me, it would be freedom.
Okay.
Freedom. Yeah, freedom, man. Like, there's nothing better than not being in this cage of what people expect. And, what the world. It's just freedom and just to be.
Okay.
And be yourself.
Yeah. I mean, I think the one word is tricky. I could think of like many. But
and that probably speaks to your multifacetedness as well, right?
100%.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So I'm going to get right into this conversation and take it right back where it all began for Tshiamo. That early journey of identity awareness. In the prologue of your book, I actually want to quote.
No, you don't make me cry.
Girl, it's there for all of us. You speak about finding yourself in a dark place before that release, juggling thoughts of unworthiness and imposter syndrome. What truths did you really have to lean into to find out about yourself and maybe even ultimately surrender to them to get to this point?
So when I was writing that, I had called you.
Yes.
And I had reached out to you.
I didn't even know you were writing a book.
No, because it's just I didn't want to tell anyone, because one, I didn't want the pressure. I didn't want it to not happen, right? But at the time, I had found myself having been stripped out of all the materialistic identities and things that I held to myself, the titles that I used to define myself. And it found myself at a place where there was nothing left but just me, myself, and I. And in my quiet time, I would constantly have to ask myself, but who are you? but who are you? But who are you? You know? And at the time, answering that was the hardest thing, because it's just like, but who am I? Once, and the reason for why that was tough was because I had now put all my secrets. I even mentioned it in the book, where I realized that we are our secrets. We are our innermost treasured thoughts, you know, because no one sees them, they shape us and they control, or they determine how we show up in life. And I had done the extraordinary thing of putting it on paper and putting it out in the world. And it felt like I had literally stripped naked and stood in front. It does, actually. Every time I see someone talk about the book, whatever, it feels like I'm naked in front of the world, and I am just hoping someone will cover me or embrace me with, like, you know, a hug, with like a towel or whatever, but just embrace me with some piece of clothing. And at the time it was dark. I had to, as I said, keep running through the idea of who are you?
And I want to talk about this who are you question. How do you navigate that? You know, how does the fact that you have these internal conflicts within yourself really shape that early identity awareness that you know what? I'm asking myself probably often than most people, who am I?
Yeah.
And it's because I'm feeling a certain way.
Yes.
Is it because I'm not identifying what was happening? You know, how did that shape who you wanted to be in this world?
Yeah. Look, I always tell people that I believe I never had a childhood, because from a young age, I was hypersensitive of my body, my surroundings, what people perceive me as, how I'm going to show up in the world, what is expected of me, and how none of that made sense with who I actually was and how I felt with all of that, you know. It was the hardest thing growing up. It meant that from a young age I would have to spend lots of time in introspection, asking myself, like, am I losing my mind? Am I crazy? Am I mad? Like, am I does this make sense? Why can't I be like everyone else around me? And why can't the world accept me or allow me to show up the way I believe or I am?
And you're 5 years old at the time.
Yeah, and I'm 5.
You're 5 years old at the time. But you're born Kayise.
Yes.
Itzile.
Yes.
And I'm Xhosa, but I know that name is quite
heavy.
It's heavy. It's dominating.
Yeah.
It's dominative, if there's such a word.
Yeah.
But it sort of almost propels you into a path of greatness, like you say, but it propels you into a path of leadership and presence and, you know, just having to show up, which was what you were internally struggling with, to show up as what you believed you truly were and not what you were born as.
Yeah.
Tell me about that, because you're also born into a Christian home, which also in itself, you know, places an expectation of how, you know, a boy child, you know, really navigates the journey. Tell me about this balance, or maybe even imbalance that's happening as you're trying to navigate conflicts within, but also everything externally that's telling you who you should truly be. Yeah.
So, as I was given the name, you know, from birth, Kayise Itzile. So my names were literally Kayise Itzile, Tshiamo, Koketso. Those are like my names. And from a young age, like when you in Tswana, Kayise Itzile, the king has come. That is a heavy, very as you said, you're a king.
You're a king.
You dominate.
But we know women can be kings now.
Exactly. I think, but at the time, it's weird because I lived in two what do you call them?
Just maybe
Parallel
universe within,
right?
Within, or the one in
like,
you and externally?
At the same time, externally. Because I was able to understand that as a king, I always used to say, a king doesn't ask. I take, I rule. I walk in and I'm being, right? My presence will be felt. And that for me allowed me to have command the confidence in everything I do. I was able to stand firm in everything that I do because I knew and I understood that I am a king. However, on the other side was the fact that in the kingdomness of it, I'm actually a queen.
Absolutely.
Right? I actually want to show up and just be soft and want to be feminine. And I can't be, I can't show up and be masculinity for me was like, what the hell,
But you still wanted to show up.
But I still wanted to show up.
That's interesting for me because it just speaks to our nature as humans, that we just want to show up as ourselves and still be able to be felt, be present,
100%.
right? And not necessarily gender assigned to that. It's just a human characteristic.
100%. And I think for me, being raised or brought up in a Christian family, the one thing that helped me was having that relationship with God and understanding and discovering who God was and is in my life. I believe that had that not happened in the beginning stages, I wouldn't have had the strength and the courage to show up and be me
In that way.
In that way, and even today.
Yeah. Tell me about, because I was at the book launch and Lerato was, doing the actual review and chatting to us about how she remembers when you also told her that you're about to write this book. I think one of the greatest and scariest moments for you was realizing that you as this PK, which is a pastor's kid, has to now come and tell the world that you don't think God created you the right way in terms of your gender assignment, at least.
Yeah.
And then you become a teenager and then you're often misgendered.
Yeah.
Because you're so beautiful. They often say, hi, man. Man. And yet your dad, who is a pastor, is just going to be staunch.
Yeah.
How do you navigate that? And how does, womanhood, through the representation of the other people that are in your life, your aunt, your grandmother, and you are often misgendered for your looks, because you're beautiful, you look cute, and you are also having these internal conversations that nobody else knows about.
Yes.
But everybody else sees them as well.
Yeah.
How does that impact you? Because I know that you speak about how your father absolutely loathed it. He hated it.
So, I always say, if I was a comedian, my opening line in stand-up comedy would always be that I believe, if during creation, we're all in the assembly line.
Like assembly line,
and
You go to the first,
they're like, okay, we're gonna do the face, and I feel like everything was going okay. They were like, okay, pretty face, da-da-da, da-da-da, da-da-da. And then at the end, someone just was like, let's just put a spin on this. Let's just add a twist, right? And that's when like the mismatch.
Everything came in here.
And then you're just like, what? And I always just think, for me, it's just like I believe, how I've chosen to look at it as God's sense of humor. Like I just feel like I'm heaven's biggest or one of heaven's jokes. Like they just look at me and just be like, this is going to be a good vibe. Like this is a good movie that we want to watch. And it wasn't easy. it wasn't easy because I had to come make peace with disappointing or being the disappointment in my family, knowing that what is expected of me and what I feel or who I am are clashing, right? Or that what I expect of myself and what my dad expects of me are not possible, you know? And at times it would be the hardest thing where the more I fight it, you know, there's a saying, what you resist persists.
Absolutely.
So the times where, you know, I try be as masculine as possible.
For your father's sake.
For my father's sake. And it was unnatural. It really was the most unnatural thing. At times, I hardly played outside because I didn't want to do anything that would make me choose a side, pick a side. Anything that made me pick a side, I was not involved in. And you can imagine being a child and already being so conscious of such decisions where you sit in isolation. Most of the time you watch. I lived through the TV. Like I am in entertainment because it was the only...
Was it an escapism for you?
It was, but at the same time, it allowed me the ability to dream. To just be like, okay, it's possible.
And it certainly is, because you're here and you're here to tell us the story because you are in this industry.
Yeah.
Not only because of that, of course, everybody's entitled to a voice, everyone has a voice.
Yeah.
But I think being able to envision that that's the place you wanted to be and to be able to do the things you do and tell the stories that you tell and tell even your own story, I think has been a great privilege.
Yeah.
Talking about family, you know, you speak about your Aunt Helen, you speak about your
My grandmother Helen.
Oh, your grandmother Helen,
Yeah.
my apologies. Aunt Dorcas.
Yes.
And your mother.
Yes.
And I was very interested to find out, because these women, you know, were different in their perspective, you know, of how you wanted to be and how you are.
Yeah.
How did that womanhood, you know, how did it impact you to be able to mirror that womanhood and literally look at them and think, that's what I best resonate with?
Yeah. So my thing is, my family is very much a balance. There's strong men, there's strong women, right? But I had, it was like the women in my family are so strong and confident and just rich in self-awareness and just self-acceptance, right? That every time I would look up, you know, and just be like, where do I fit in here? That's more where I saw myself. Like my aunt Dorcas was a social worker, TV personality, radio personality, a woman of God. Like that woman knew the Bible from cover to cover. She ministered. She helped young women in the Eastern Cape. She was, you know, and it's very hard for me to speak of her and not tear up or have those moments. But because she literally was the embodiment of my future self. Like I looked at her and I was just like, this is who I am and this is where I want to, like, where I see myself and how I want to show up in the world. I want, you know, at the same time, she was very independent and had the perfect balance of masculinity, but also like very feminine. Like she was a lady, classy, eloquent, sophisticated, you know, spoke very well outspoken. And then on the other side, my grandmother she loved the royal family. So everything that was just deemed to be exactly, you know,
top notch.
She was that. She wore pearls. Everything of hers was just always hyper feminine, very.
That girl.
You know.
Yeah.
My mother, on the other hand, was a nurturer and a philanthropist. My mom looked after kids and loved to take in people.
Yeah.
And that was where I saw myself like, okay,
As a woman.
I just wanted to give love and show up and be a place of just comfort and resolution and just warmth.
And I'll add and say beauty.
Thank you.
Beauty. Thank you for
tissue.
that. Oh, well, we can ask, does anybody on set have a tissue?
My grandmother looked at me when I was young. I said, what you're not going to do is play rugby. You're not going to do all of those things. You're going to play tennis.
Okay.
It's a dignified sport. You deserve to be in those kind of...
Wimbledon.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the journey of becoming. Thank you, sis. Journey of becoming is where I think now those internal conflicts are probably becoming louder. You're now a teenager, and thank you so much. Is there two there? Can I have one?
Yeah.
Thank you so much. You're becoming, or at least on the journey to becoming. And you write in your book that nighttime was literally your favorite time of the day.
Yeah.
Because that's where you got to escape and be in your thoughts and be authentically who you wanted to be. And I would presume this was Tshiamo in your mind, because you created an alter ego.
Yeah.
How do you then, parallelly live, or how do you create an opportunity within yourself and within the context of who you ought to be to have these parallel characters or personalities live in one body?
So I think let's not say you make, because it sounds like I'm schizophrenic.
Oh no! Please.
No.
My apologies.
But
I think I'm just trying to get a sense of, nighttime comes and you live truly authentically. When it's quiet, the world doesn't see. It's you and your thoughts, and you are sure that this is who you are.
Yeah.
But then daytime comes and you still need to live up to Hosi.
Yeah.
And how do these parallel people live within you?
Yeah. So I think, not that I think, but it's for me, how I look at it is everyone in life, like there's a different Kayise on TV, there's a different Kayise at home. Your son knows a different Kayise. Your
I'm a different Kayise when I'm a girlfriend.
Exactly. Do you get what I'm saying?
I love that one.
So, the only time you really get to be you is when you're sitting in bed and you're by yourself and you're in your thoughts, or you're just reflecting on the day. And that's exactly what happened with me, where in the morning I'd wake up and, the world demands a certain aspect of me. So I need to be this person. I need to, I need to be Hosi. I need to be my brother's elder sibling. I need to be my mom's firstborn. I need, and then at school I need to be this leader. And
so it's just really showing up in these roles, as we all do.
100%. But at the same time, I would have I'd come home and sit and then reflect and be like, okay, in my ideal world, if the script was flipped, how would today have gone?
And then how do you find refuge in Tshiamo? Because I would say, I'm assuming that if Tshiamo is what you are at night, and you say, how would this day pan out? Wouldn't Tshiamo live in the day as well?
Yeah.
And how did you find refuge in her?
So, I'd find myself at times experiencing things double, right? And I also talk about in the book where as much as it's happening to me, I would sit and watch it happening, from an outside body experience.
Like watching your own life?
Yes, where I need to understand, like, And I always say Tshiamo was the big sister I needed.
Ooh.
So Tshiamo would comfort me and just be like, it's okay. It will work out. Like, I've got you. And I think because people think maybe like my name is Tshiamo has always been my name and the name that I resonate with. Right? This is the name my mother gave me. So it's always been there from the jump. I've always been Tshiamo. And, you know, at times I'd find myself having to now sit and be like, okay, how would you show up in a different
world
setting, right?
Gotcha.
And in retrospect now, how I show up to the world is from a point of just grace, right? I don't have to feel the pressure of just wanting to show. I think Kgosi wanted to please everyone and wanted to fight so much to be accepted. Tshiamo now just bees.
She's
I'm here.
That girl.
Take it or leave it.
And I want to actually quote you. In your book, you write, when I turned 17, I experienced the greatest betrayal. It was as if I woke up as a teen boy, feeling uncomfortable with my body. Why did you view this as betrayal?
Because everything is going so well. And also I was a late bloomer. You see, here's the thing. And that's why I say, like, I really feel like I was heaven's biggest joke. Because it was just like, I was a late bloomer. I had the most softest feminine face still, you know what I mean? Like, there was never...
always tell us that God did not...
Listen, this face has never declined.
This face can't,
never declined.
And I love that you know that.
Thank you. I think with the grandmother that I had, it's kind of hard not to.
Yeah. Does she tell you often?
My grandmother, yes. My grandmother used to look at me and my grandmother looked at me when I was young and said, what you're not going to do is play rugby. You're not going to do all of those things. You're going to play tennis.
Okay.
It's a dignified sport. You deserve to be in those kind of...
Wimbledon.
Yeah, she was like, no, wrestling, no, you're not doing that.
It's not for you.
It's not your portion. Oh. Let the people do what they do.
Yeah.
You are a tennis
When are you my
queen.
precious?
You're
my precious.
And, you know... Wait, sorry, what was the question?
I'll run it back. Like, you basically write about this betrayal.
Oh, the betrayal.
The betrayal,
yes.
yeah.
So it was just the thing of... here I am, right? Super feminine, like literally, you wouldn't, I would get stopped, right? And everyone, like women, like people would be like, "Oh, you're such a beautiful girl," like, you know. And at times, because I'm just like, I'd be like, "Thank you," and I'd walk away or whatever. But
how did you feel when you walk away? Did you accept that? I know everybody tells you, but did you accept that you're beautiful?
Oh, you really want the tears now, do you? So,
It's after dark.
Okay. I boast about my looks, right? I'll be like, my face card never declines. And it's really from a point of just affirming it to myself because I never believed it. Because I would, every time someone would say it in the midst of my dad, he would take that compliment away from me, you know? So I never felt, still there are times even now where I battle to deal with being told that I'm beautiful because it's just like, what is beautiful? What do you mean I'm beautiful?
What do you mean you're beautiful?
You know? I always say, for me, dealing with accepting a compliment is the hardest thing because I grew up not having
And because you were told that because of what you were born as,
Yes.
you're not allowed to be told you're beautiful. Perhaps maybe the word handsome would fit better.
Not even, but it
Or
was
just beauty
yes,
is not
it was
to be
just like,
associated
it was,
with you
yes,
at
and
all.
it was never a thing that should be associated
With you.
with me. So it was always, I always felt like I needed to be academically smart. I needed to be, an achiever. I needed to be something else. Compliment me, like, you're so well outspoken, you're so, but never focus on my looks.
Yeah.
Because my looks are a problem. And I have no control of it. Like,
It's who you are. Absolutely. In your journal entry dated 24 June 2005, we're in 2025 now. So we're talking 20 years
20 years ago, oh, wow, yeah?
You wrote, "This might be the last time I write. Unless I decide to change my mind, I want to kill myself." And I've got goosebumps as I'm reading that line because, whew,
It just made me realize it was 20 years ago.
it's 20 years ago. You told yourself in your
Yeah.
diary entry that you didn't want to live anymore.
Yeah.
And of course, given what we know and understand about mental health and the impact that it has today,
Yeah.
because we're open to talking about it more, we're open to experiencing how one can overcome that, But I can't help but think that, oh my gosh, I'm so glad that you did it. Because look at you now. I'm so glad you didn't. I'm so glad the story didn't end for you like that. But I have to understand what led you to writing that, to that moment.
Exhaustion. I was tired. I was tired of being at battle with society, with myself, with my family. I was tired of being the black sheep. I was tired of, constantly feeling like a failure. Nothing I do is accepted. Nothing I do is, appreciated. Nothing I was just tired of always just being at the back end of everything. I had never been picked first in anything. And that goes like, I was never like a dumb child or like, academically not smart, but I was always the second option, never the first. And I was tired of that. I was just like, I'm tired of constantly having to prove myself and fight for things. I'm fighting to show that I am actually a great leader. I'm fighting to show that I actually am Christian, or and for me it was just like
Christian enough.
And Christian enough, right? And all of this is just like, then I have to deal with the fact that I'm at school, everyone's dating, I'm not dating, because I can't really date.
That's a beautiful point.
Because
it ties in with what I want to ask. You go into adulthood or young adulthood, and you've spoken at length about the physical attributes, and how they created this confusion, not necessarily for other people. Okay, maybe some people also were just like, is she a girl? No, she's not, But it created that intense pressure for you as well to be able to accept those compliments or not. But now you're talking about dating and you're going into puberty and you're a young woman, at least you identify as one or you believe that you are one, but the world is telling you you're a boy. How do you contextualize that and make these things meet? Because like you're saying, you're not chosen first.
Yeah.
But you're changing and you want to be somebody's girlfriend. Maybe, or you want to date. How do you, make sense of all these things?
So I think that's like the chapter on betrayal. That's mostly what it's about, because it's just like, how do I show up for myself without letting myself down?
Yeah.
right? I had to make peace with the fact that I might not ever fall in love. That for me, that is not a reality. And that's even now, something I'm dealing with now. But I had to sit down with myself at a young age and ask myself those questions. What do I want? And I think to answer the first question, the suicide was because I wanted so much of myself because I couldn't afford myself what everyone else in the world could give themselves.
Yeah.
Right? I couldn't date. So in return or in exchange, I wanted to be the head prefect. I wanted to be...
For that internal validation, maybe?
Yes, because I still wanted to know that, like,
I'm good enough.
I'm good enough. I'm actually good enough, right? And that was the thing. Like, I'd constantly just be like, if I'm not being picked first as a leader or as, top 10, top 20, smart, whatever, and I'm not being picked as a partner, where is my value? Who's gonna pick me, right? Who's gonna love me? Who's gonna want me? And I think I got to a point where I was just tired and exhausted, and I just was like, if it ends, let it end.
Ooh, that one is big for me, and it's a human thing, It just makes you so much more human to me. It makes your story so much more valuable to me, not because it wasn't before, but it just makes me see more that we're all connected.
Yeah.
All we want is to be loved.
Yeah.
And that's all, that would have been the catalyst to change young Tshiamo from wanting to end her life to being the star and the woman that you are today. I'm going to talk about the time that I meet you. Mm-hmm. You're an entertainment commentator, you're a stylist, you're a writer, you're an actress. Like, you're doing it all in the entertainment industry. And like you're saying, you wanted a place where you could be, and I think maybe that's where you found it. Tell us about the evolution of Kayise becoming Crazy K, because that's who I met.
Yes.
Yeah. And then how do you then, still allow Tshiamo, because Tshiamo was living as an alter ego.
Yeah.
They knew, but she transforms and becomes Kayise, at least Crazy K, at least for the rest of us to know. Yeah.
So, because of my aunt, like, I knew that I grew up in entertaining, like in a household with an entertainer. I think you have the same, you know what I mean? Like your Uncle Dixie. You knew it was possible.
I'm so glad somebody knows. Well, everybody knows him, but I get it.
I had the biggest crush on your uncle. You have no idea.
Oh, I'm going to definitely send him this episode.
No idea. But like, you knew it was possible. Right? You knew,
just
like,
that tangible representation.
Yes, it was there. You knew, like, this is something. And for me, when I was 5, 6, I was on Kidio. So the cameras, everything was just always...
Kidio. How does the tune again? Sorry,
Kidio.
I know I'm interrupting, but now I'm also having a moment because it starts there as a child, right?
But so it was always just like this larger than life thing that for me was reality. Like I always... And I think... in a way, the hosiness of it allowed me to show up boldly, and
this is Kayise or Crazy K? Crazy K.
Kayise.
Okay.
The Crazy K of it was someone who, Crazy K was, I think, crazy in the sense that it was just the creative side of me who's just unconforming, unconventional, larger than life. But even then, it was just like, I need to be, since I can't be this, I need to have some form of outlet to at least show up some...
Kayise, but not really.
Yeah, yes. Just have some form of outlet outside of myself. And I think people thought I was constantly Crazy K, like, and I was just like, no, Crazy K is a character. Like,
exactly. I wanted to say, did the industry allow you to live that truth? Because we are naturally allowed, in this industry. We are the ones who tell the rest of the world, live freely,
Yes,
and authentically show up as who you are, as crazy as you want to be. Did it allow you to do that?
I think for a fact that all that glitters is not gold in this industry. And I think, it's Chipa Manda who says, we teach the girl child to dream, you can dream, but not too much. And it's just the same thing. Like I was told, you can be you, but not you. Just, you can have like eyeliner, just not mascara. You can, wear heels, just not a dress. You know what I mean? And it was just like, why are they? If I'm showing up as me, you'll get the best performance.
Absolutely.
From me.
And we really have, now that you've been able to live in your truth.
100%. I think my mother and my grandmother's passing, as much as it was my biggest fear, it also was my biggest blessing, because it allowed me the chance to live and dig deep inside of me and live for me.
We're now, man, I wish we had more time, I really wish we had more time. And then the transformation begins.
Yeah.
And your journey to self-mastery, which is a big one for us at this show, because that's what After Dark is about, when you get to this moment where you're no longer going to live in this darkness and you sort of en route to light. And it's a journey of transformation. For you, it was both mental, psychological, emotional, and physical.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the big moment that you were announced as the first non-gender conforming ambassador for Laxoo. Whew, a global brand.
Yeah.
What does this mean for you, Tshiamo?
That was huge, right? That was huge for me, because growing up, Laxoo was my outlet. The time spent in the shower or getting ready was the time for me to dream,
In the shower. Oh. I see that.
I used to, and remember back in the day we had those ads where it was, Mambasi.
I know, I wanted to say.
Exactly. You know what I mean?
Because she's my aunt, like that. But she's definitely.
And I tell her all the time, like, I used to just sit in the shower and just be like, I'm using Laxoo and Basi uses Laxoo.
And that's that?
And I think back then we had your women who were just so, like, our Miss South Africas were so, not that these ones are, like, the current ones are not, but they were just, like, so iconic. Like, I think
just a representation of what we wanted to be.
Yes, 100%.
But of course we're children at the time, so it's really just the far-fetched dream.
100%. Like, I would watch, Mambasi, I watched Jerry Ransedi, those are women who I'd just be like, oh my gosh, Mam Felicia. Do you understand?
I know.
And Laxoo for me was that brand where I would use it and it would be affirming.
Absolutely.
To me.
And then you become the face.
So then when I get the call and they're like, would like you to be I just was like, and
God loves me after all.
And here's the thing, right? This came at the back end of me having lost my mom.
Absolutely.
So I just buried my mother. And 2 weeks after, I get the call that we'd like you to come in. We have an opportunity we'd like to discuss with you. Before that 2 weeks, right, in the process of me burying my mother, I remember driving home and, in tears and comprehending everything and saying a prayer. And my prayer was, God, I know that this must have been, like, this is the big loss that you've taken from me. But what you're going to give me is going to be bigger than this. You're preparing me for something bigger.
Yeah.
And to find myself on the other side where I'm now the face or part of the faces of Lux at the time was just like, okay, God.
Yeah. What was that defining moment of that conversation you had with your mom before she passed on?
So my mom said to me, and this is like after at the back end of just us having gossip, like we're gossiping, girls just like
just girls
sharing tea. And she turns around and says to me, I'm proud of you. I'm proud of you and the way you've lived your life. And that was the first time I've heard her say that to me. But because of the context of the conversation, it was just like, what are you? Get out of there, right? Not knowing that would be the last conversation I ever had with her. So fast forward to after she passes and I had to sit down and think to myself, my mom might be proud of me, but am I proud of me? Like, have I? And I realized I had been living as a shell of myself. Like, I had just been happy with the smaller parts of me, with just living off, the fragments of myself and not truly fully as myself. Like
I know how grief can really cause a whirlwind of emotions.
Yeah.
And regret is one of them, denial is one of them.
Yeah.
And obviously it's just grief, it's heavy like that. But it unravels us and, at some point when we get to those stages of acceptance, you start to think, perhaps maybe this is a rude awakening.
Yes.
Of how you need to show up to the world with, your own sense of bravery and courage. How did your mother's passing and that moment of grief or that journey of grief really propel you towards that?
Yeah. So what I say in the book is the blessing and the curse, right? I think my mother and my grandmother's passing, as much as it was my biggest fear, it also was my biggest blessing because it allowed me the chance to live and dig deep inside of me and live for me. Yeah. Because at the time I was living for them. I wanted to make them happy and, be everything, show them that I can have everything. Like I'm not angshorting an ex.
Yeah.
Yeah. I wanted to, and in them passing was them giving me the freedom to just be like, you've got this.
You've got this.
Now live. And
then you begin to live, Tshiamo. You take that first step towards your gender and please correct me.
Gender affirming.
Affirming or reassignment,
yes.
If I can say. You take that first step and you decide and you get your first dosage.
Yeah.
Ooh. I thought it was defining when I read the book, but I can't speak for you. I need you to tell me because you get to that moment where that light bulb is like, stop living a false life.
Yeah.
Mom is gone and she needs to be even more proud of you for living in your truth. Tell me what happens when you decide that you are going to do this hormone therapy journey.
So I just thought to myself, okay, like, am I really happy with myself? And I thought to myself, well, how would I want to be buried? What would I want people to say?
Death does that, right?
Yeah, like what would I want people to say about me at my funeral? How would I want to look in my coffin? And I was just like, none of this makes sense, And that then led me to seek counseling, and in my grief, just seek counseling and come to terms with the fact that this is not it for me, and be honest with myself.
Yeah.
And when the transitioning began, through like the therapy and all of that, I went in there hoping they would say to me, you're actually crazy. Like, no, it's not a thing, right? And I went through 3 different therapists.
Yeah.
But all of them came out with the same results. Like, you're not living your authentic life, and it's causing conflict.
Are these the psychiatric tests?
Yes.
Okay.
So in all of that, it was just like, then what am I afraid of? What if I do this and I actually become the best version of myself, right? And this was me wanting healing and survival for myself, and wanting, and for the first time, I can say, putting me first, without the title of being someone's child, someone's sibling, someone. I was just myself. You know, I put myself. I was, to me, what I needed to be. And the hormone therapy was a challenge.
What were those side effects? Because I think you started with so it's the psychiatric test, and then it's the injections.
Yeah, so
and then
the injections,
patches.
it's the patches, and then the injections.
Okay, tell me about those side effects. Physically, at least.
I mean, for me, it was weird, because how it started off first was that I first started off with being menopausal. And
so it starts at the end.
So it starts at the end and weeks. So trust me.
So you've been where we are still going.
Where you're still going.
You need to tell us what it feels like.
I can tell you for free.
Hot flashes. You told me about this. In fact, you mentioned it at the book launch with our amazing Dr. Dalsey, of course.
No,
and I definitely want to have a conversation with her.
Please do. Oprah right now is doing that whole menopause thing. I'm sitting there going, girl,
yes.
I can tell you a thing or two, because there would be times where I would wake up, right, in the middle of the night, and my bed would be soaking wet. You'd swear I've been running a marathon. It's wet, but I am hot, like heating up. Imagine standing on top
like
of...
you're in a sauna.
Not even a sauna, like a furnace. You understand? Like the heat is exuding from... It's just hitting you, right? And nothing you do can cool it off. And it hits you at random times. There'd be times where I'd put on a full face. By the time I walk out of my house, my brow is sitting on my chin, because everything is just melting.
Damn.
And you are just grumpy, and then there's the lack of sex, and you know what I mean? But that's just the premenopausal. And then as time goes, you move from premenopausal, you go to becoming an adolescent teen, and I was just raging with hormones. Like I was just like a 16-year-old. You know when growing up they say upeti adolidoli.
It was a staging.
That's exactly what happened. It's like then I found myself just like, you know, your breasts start to develop, and I'm just sitting there going, what the hell? Now I need to pick a bra size, but at the same time I'm like, who do I speak to? Who do I ask? Who's walking this journey with me?
The experience of going to the shop,
you know,
so many different experiences.
And I remember the one time I went for my checkups with Dr. Dalsey, and I'm like, you know, doctor, the most weirdest thing is happening. She's like, what? She's always just like,
what now?
Humor me. And I'm like, the other day I found myself eating wings with Ultramel. Like I just...
Oh, pregnant,
I'm just like, these cravings. She's like to me, we call that PMS.
Oh, PMS, absolutely.
And then at the time, I was also like we were seeing each other, this other guy. But he'd be like, you're so moody. Like 1 minute you're hot, and I've never been a moody person. Like I am at the same temperature all the time, and I wasn't aware and she was like, yeah, you're gonna go through that. Like
you are a woman.
Yeah, like there are times where you don't want to talk to, you don't want, and there's still times where I don't want to talk to a man, I don't want to see a man, I don't want to be touched, and just stay away from me, you know? But that's just...
Ooh, I feel like we need to have this conversation and like a part 2.
Yeah, we
it's
definitely
so
do.
Enlightening. It's so affirming to me as a woman, you know, who has always been a woman, believed I'm a woman, but like, I feel like I'm talking to my sister who is telling me about her life before we met, or you know, it's such a beautiful conversation. But we do need to hurry up, because I want to make sure that we don't miss out anything for our viewers. Tell me about going through this in COVID. We're all going through Siakoa. It's COVID, and you're going through this journey alone.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we used to live close to one another at the time. Yeah. How did that feel like?
Excuse me. So because I had been living by myself, when COVID happened, it wasn't like the worst thing. What it did though was my distractions. It made me hard for me to have my distractions, right? I found it harder to go out and have those times where I needed to be outside of my body and outside of what was happening. Those challenges were harder to navigate. And at the same time, I'm unraveling and I'm finding out things about myself that, couldn't happen. Like, I never thought would be possible. And now the possibilities are possibilities, you know?
They're possibility.
Yeah.
Okay. There is different phases that I picked up from the book. There's the physical, obviously we've just gone through that. There's the administrative side, your book, your ID books, names, all of that. And I think we're going to need more education on that. But I want to talk about how you actually probably, in fact, I want to ask, did you experience any body dysmorphia during this time?
Yes, no, 100%. My whole life I've experienced body dysmorphia. And even like closer to surgery and everything, it's just like, and even post-surgery, you have to now understand who you're looking at and what's happening, right? As your body changes, I think you've been pregnant, you know how it feels when you used to have a flat tummy, now all of a sudden, it's just like, but who am I? What is?
And how did I get you?
How did I get you? And that's just the process. And I think that's why it's just my journey through womanhood, because I feel like I can sit with any other woman and we can share that in commonality of just how do you live with your body constantly changing and unfolding as you go.
Yeah.
At some point I was just like, my bum is too big. How do I shrink my bum? My hips are too big. It's those kind of conversations where you're just like, am I losing my mind?
Yeah, and it's a constant, it's a daily.
Yeah.
What else have you gained from this physical and gender affirmation and reassignment? What else have you taken from that?
I think the fact that I am worthy of love. I might find it hard to accept it, but I am reliving the fact that I'm seeing that I'm worthy of love. And that for me, more than anything, there's no difference. My story is not any different to any other story of human experience.
Absolutely.
We're all humans navigating life the best way we can with what we know.
And what we don't know.
And what we don't know, and that is basically it. Like, it's just like, be kind to me as I am kind to you, because I do not know where you come from.
I don't know your story.
I don't know your story, but I can also learn from you, and your story might teach me for the future situation on how to handle, a certain situation in life.
Tshiamo, when are you writing the next book? Because I'm already
I'm in the process.
I'm in the process,
right? I think right now.
I'm feeling like I can't captivate everything.
Yeah.
This book is a lot, but also the lived experience is a lot.
Thank you.
What do you think, Tshiamo, what do you think your mom and your grandmother would say?
No, don't do that. Don't do that.
It has to be said. It has to be said, because those people loved you more than anybody else, right?
I find myself, and this is something that I've shared with a friend of mine who's also lost their mom, but there are times when I catch a glimpse of myself, like either in a mirror or in a picture, and I don't see me, but I see my mother. And for me, that is her giving me a hug. I think, my grandmother always told me she was proud of me, she loved me. And And I think what they would most likely say to me is, my child, you're worthy, and you are going to do extraordinary things. This is only the beginning. And remember whose you are. Yeah. Yeah, I think, I think remember whose you are. Remember you carry us, I think. I am a heterosexual woman who's had a trans experience, right? And what that means is I love men, I date men.
What is womanhood to you now?
Grace.
I love that you keep mentioning grace.
Grace.
Because it's you.
I think, having had such a strong Christian background and strong relationship with God, I've seen the grace of God in my life, and I lead from it. I lead with grace because it's been awarded to me.
Unmerited favor.
You understand? No one is perfect, but with God, He gives us the ability to just be gracious and know that we're still His in everything and within all the mess.
How have you detached? I mean, your journey of becoming is still a continuous one, but how have you detached from old versions of yourself to what we now know as Tshiamo, the beautiful, gracious, and, I suppose, affirmed woman that you are?
That is all God. That is all God, because, He will isolate you. He will...
I know too well.
Yeah, so for me, that it's trusting the journey, allowing the journey to unravel. And that's why I didn't want to speak. I needed to walk the journey and then speak about it. And that's it. And allow God to work through me and in me. Yeah.
Here at After Dark, we have no limits.
I wonder.
And we have these chats. You always in my DMs say, friend, Marwa, and we are tando. And I'm always like, yes, of course. Me, I will love till I die.
No, you love. You love and you love boldly.
And I love that I was able to get to find that Kayise again, because grief, everything that took away that Kayise who could love or even think she could be loved again was because I had to go to that journey. Now, let's talk about dating, girl. Now that you are a woman, we struggled in the beginning. It was take a ring in the middle,
Yeah.
Where are we now?
I'm single.
Are you looking?
I am single. Look, I think I'm at a point where, and I'm going to say this, when you go through something, right? When you are a single parent or you find yourself, maybe you're a mother and the world tells you no one's going to date you, no one's going to marry you because you have kids, right?
You've got baggage.
That plays in your head, right? And allowing yourself to step out with your baggage and still believe, and pursue the happiness that you deserve is where I am. I am, I never thought, I keep telling my friends, I never thought this would be possible. I am living a dream I never thought would happen. So it's mind-boggling to me that someone finds me attractive, that someone wants to call me or to, you know what I mean?
Girl.
I mean, I don't blame them because
Neither do I.
I'm joking, but it's just like, at some point I never thought this was possible. And now it's like, okay, let's see how it goes. But yeah, I'm single, nothing's...
So, gents, are you into men? Because I want to understand. Because I was having this conversation with some of the crew members, and I wanted to be very careful how I, term this thing, because there's a difference between sexual orientation, gender assignment, and gender or sex.
Yes.
Right. So I need you to help us understand who is Tshiamo now.
Yes.
Maybe answer this part and then tell me who is Tshiamo now.
Yeah. So I even touch on it very on the first chapter of my book, where I say, the first chapter of my book is titled "Tell Me About You," which is normally
yes, I remember. Interview. I read that, and we all hate that question, right?
When you sit in an interview and someone's like, "So tell us about yourself," and for me, it's because I needed to define and redefine who I am. And at the end of it, and I explained that I am a heterosexual woman who's had a trans experience, right? And what that means is I love men, I date men.
Okay.
And yeah.
Let them come.
If they come, if they happen and then they come. But again, I'm not like standing in the corner. I'm rather standing in the corner chasing for money than I am, for love. If love happens, it happens. Right now, the focus is just to build and be the mogul that I want to be.
And you are surely on your way.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tshiamo. I truly believe, I still want to sit here, talk to you, unpack more. But it is a production, after all. We work on time, and you know that all too well.
Thank you.
But I want to let you know that I am incredibly proud of you.
Thank you.
I've known you now, like I said, for almost 7 years. And ours began as, colleagues in the industry, but we've had our own relationship. And I thank you for empowering me as a woman. I thank you for being so courageous. I want to thank you for finding your light after dark. And I wish you the absolute best.
Thank you so much.
Love you.
Thank you. Well done. I think we're only just warming up. But great conversation. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
I knew that I'd be in safe hands. And I love you, and well done.
Thank you, my love.
Well done.
I love you. For me, man, it's so much more than what I thought it would be. Tshiamo's journey is just so beautifully. And I think what I take most from this conversation is how she's able to really articulate it. You cannot tell her story better than her. I just afforded her the opportunity. I'm so grateful to have done that. I feel blessed and honored to be able to do that. And I hope that this platform is something that every woman, any person who's going through any kind of darkness, they don't know how to come out and talk about it authentically, gracefully, as she has done. This is where I hope you'll find yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, thank you.